That was a baby manatee sighting by the Girl Scouts. Welcome to Shellcast, the podcast that's a beach break for your ears. I'm your host, Jackie Parker, and I work for the Lee County Visitor and Convention Bureau in promoting Fort Myers, islands, beaches, and neighborhoods. We're here in Southwest Florida, about 2 hours south of Tampa. And in this episode of Shellcast, we're here at Manatee Park. It's a seasonal location in Fort Myers for viewing non-captive Florida manatees in Lee County. Manatees visit the park in search of warm weather during the cooler days in winter when the temperature in the Gulf of Mexico is below 68 degrees or 20 degrees Celsius. The warm water here in Manatee Park in the canal comes from the Florida Power and Light power plant across the street and is created as a byproduct of cooling off their equipment. And in this canal, right now, there are several manatees here just sort of bobbing up, getting air, and then going back down. And there are a lot of people here to come out and see the manatees, and we're going to talk to some of them. I am here with a Fort Myers family, and this is their first time to Manatee Park. And I'm with Lacey and Beckett and Jason. Good morning. So you live pretty close by, and what was this like? I mean, we're watching. There's so many out here, just like they're rolling around in the water and frolicking. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I think we always kind of miss the time when it's cool enough that it's good viewing, and so I feel really glad that we were able to make it out today.
So what's out here in the water?
Manatees.
Is this the first time you've seen manatees? What are they? Looks like they're playing out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
They're playing a game.
Are they?
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, how old are you, Beckett?
I'm 3.
3?
3.
Very good. And Jason, we can't leave you out. Was it what you expected? What did you think about this park?
It was nice hearing that this was so close to us, and coming out here, it's really a gem. It's really a great opportunity to get to see a little bit of native Florida, natural Florida that can still create a little niche out here in our built-up environment.
You've got your binoculars on, and so you're getting a little bit better view of what's going on out there in the canal.
Absolutely, looks like they're having a good time out there today. They've got plenty of warm water. They got basically a manatee lazy river, and they're showing out for their fans.
Yeah, I like that. And, I'm going to use that, the manatee lazy river. I like that. Very good. Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
The parking lot here at Manatee Park is full. I'm looking at license plates from Illinois and Ontario, Wisconsin, Ohio, all points north. It's just a beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. Folks are waiting at the little parking station to pay for their parking, and it's there's just a really big crowd here enjoying the manatee experience. Where are y'all from?
Well, we stay here as snowbirds, but we're from Wisconsin.
From Wisconsin? Oh, great. What part?
Milwaukee suburb.
Nice.
Brookfield. We were supposed to do water aerobics, but here we are. When it's cold, you go to the Manatee Park.
Today. It's too cold for today.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Julie, and this is
Kendall.
Kendall, nice to meet you both.
Yeah.
So you've been out here before.
whenever it gets cold.
Nice.
The manatee, look at the manatees. Is he hiding?
Yes.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to spend winters here. It's so lovely. Even after Hurricane Ian.
Yeah.
But look at them, they're so happy.
Look at the baby. He's tiny little tail. Look at the big tail. That long little tail.
I don't think I ever saw a manatee. Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to see some here in a few minutes. So I'm tagging along with a Brownie Girl Scout troop. What's your number?
100171.
They're from Estero, and so for a lot of these young ladies, it's their first time here at Manatee Park. So we thought we'd tag along with them.
Oh, there's one right there. These are really cute. I think we scared them.
Yes.
I think we scared We're so happy. I think we scared them.
See if we can get a closer look.
I think we scared
I think if we walk down there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we can get a
Go
little
this
bit.
way?
Okay, girls, we're
Oh,
gonna.
we're down there.
There's a lot over here, Mom. They
Okay,
keep
let's
on
go this
popping up. Dude.
Okay.
I want to
Yes.
pet Stevie. I want to pet
The website mentioned since it was so cold,
Yeah,
you might not be able to see any today, but glad it worked out.
it's good. Yeah.
Anya, why are you wearing shorts?
Thank you for letting me tag along.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
absolutely.
What's your name?
Jenny.
Jenny. Hi,
Yes.
Jenny. Nice
Hi,
to meet you. I'm
nice
Jackie.
to meet you.
And how many brownies do you have in this group? You got.
We have 10, but
Okay.
we'll have 8 here today.
I'm here at Manatee Park talking with Laura Carr. She's with Lee County Parks and Recreation and knower of all things manatee. Laura, thanks for being with me this afternoon on this fine, glorious day in January in Fort Myers.
Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. I enjoy this.
Let's timestamp this. It's January 18th, so it's a Wednesday. And yesterday on the 17th, something very special happened here at Manatee Park. Can you talk about that real quick?
Sure. So yesterday, a manatee was released here at Manatee Park. So her name is Focaccia. I believe when they're rescued, the rehabilitation sites name them, although I can't be 100% accurate. We here at Manatee Park don't name them. But she was rescued here early last year, so she's been in rehab for about a year. When she was rescued, she was underweight, so about 191 pounds. She was kind of skinny. So after a year of rehabilitation, she was at SeaWorld. So SeaWorld brought her all the way down here. She was released at the end of the canal into the Orange River. And so in conjunction with FWC, so the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, they were able to get her back out into the water. So now she can be a wild manatee again, which is pretty fabulous.
Wow. And about how old is Focaccia?
If I remember correctly, she's a couple of years old. I want to say 2 or 3 around there.
Okay. And so she'll be able to make friends and do her thing.
So they're not extremely social in the way that humans are. The goal for releasing them here at Manatee Park in the wintertime is that we are a warm water site, so the manatee learns this is where I come to get warm in the winter. Additionally, they want to release them at a time when there are a lot of other manatees here at the park, not so much so they're all buddy-buddy hanging out, but as those manatees leave to find food, that manatee that's been released has friends to follow, kind of figure out what the lay of the land and things like that. She, like I said, she was released here, but she's been gone for a year. She may not remember the location or things
Sure.
may have changed.
So, oh, well, and a manatee just popped its head up just there.
Perfect.
So, tell listeners a little bit about manatees, just sort of the manatee basics.
Sure. So manatees are mammals just like you and I. So there's 5 things that make us a mammal. We have body hair. So even manatees, not a big mop of hair on their head like we have, but they have sparse hairs on their bodies. They have whiskers as well, males and females. They breathe air with lungs. So manatees surface roughly every 3 to 5 minutes if they're active, and then up to 20 minutes if they're resting. So they are considered conscious breathers. So whereas we have a part of our brain that controls our breathing and we don't really think about it unless we're actively holding our breath or doing something else, manatees have to actively think about it. So they do more resting than getting the 8 hours of sleep that we would get at night. They also give live birth. So mom is pregnant for 13 months. Twins are pretty rare, but she'll nurse her young for about the first 2 years of its life. So that's another thing that mammals do is they nurse their young. And then all mammals are warm-blooded. So they produce their own body heat just like we do, but they do get cold. We put on jackets or seek out coffee or hot chocolate, depending on who you are. Bonfire, anything nice and toasty. For these guys, they're seeking out warm water.
And they seek it out from the Gulf, and they come up the Caloosahatchee River, I guess, and then the Orange River.
Correct, yep. So they're hanging out. Their food sources, the seagrasses that they eat primarily, are out in the Gulf of Mexico, Estero Bay, Pine Island Sound, those locations. And so in the wintertime, they're going to swim up the Caloosahatchee River, like you said, up through the Orange River, and then here to us.
So that's a lot to remember.
It is. My guess is that they are feeling the warm water plume that is coming from this canal. So there is a lot of warm water that's being discharged. It's roughly 80 degrees or so in the canal right now. And as it travels down through the Caloosahatchee River, it does obviously cool off as it mixes with that cooler water.
And January and February are prime times for visitors to come to Manatee Park. It's really something it's something great to do, in the morning when it's cooler, typically in January and February.
So as soon as that cold front comes through, the manatees don't magically appear right away. What they're waiting for is that temperature in the Gulf to drop below 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's typically the magic number. So 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. But they do swim roughly 3 to 5 miles an hour on average, short bursts of 20 miles. And we're roughly 25 miles from, say, the Gulf of Mexico. So it takes them a little while to get here. So you need that water to cool off. They've got to do the swimming and all the effort to get here. So generally, I would say a day or two, depending on how cold it is. If it's really cold overnight, then they will probably be here a lot sooner. And then they stay, I would say, as long as they need to, depending on how long that cold front lasts or how early it warms back up here.
And for people who are coming here for the first time, there's a lot here to experience and enjoy. There's a guide to the butterflies of Lee County, and there are butterflies swirling around everywhere around the park. There's just a lot of vegetation. There's a playground. There's a little natural amphitheater area for programming. There's even a kayak launch. I mean, there's a lot to do here.
There is. So at the amphitheater, every day we offer an All About Manatees program at 2 o'clock. So the average person come around, can listen, can walk the canal and see manatees, hopefully, but then also learn about them as well. There is signage around the park, so if you do miss that program, there's plenty of information that you can glean from the informational signage that's around the park. Like you said, there are butterflies and other wildlife here. I've seen painted buntings here lately. I've seen hummingbirds, which I've actually never seen before until this year here, so that was pretty
Really?
exciting.
Hummingbirds, that's great.
We get a lot of migratory birds that come through. It's pretty amazing. I've had volunteers see Anhinga going for fish in the canal. I mean, you never know what you're going to see around here, I feel like.
And we're if you hear the traffic in the background, we're sort of along, this is still Palm Beach Boulevard, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
And then on the other side is the Florida Power.
Yes.
And that is part of why this water is warm.
Correct. So we are standing on land that's owned by the Florida Power and Light Power Plant. The Lee County government leases the land for $1 a year from the power plant company. And so the park itself opened in 1996. So through the process of them generating electricity, they create a lot of heat. And so they draw on water from the Caloosahatchee River to absorb that heat. That water is discharged out of this canal. And then eventually that's why we get manatees. So when they came online, I don't think their goal was to attract manatees by any means. It was just to provide power for the people in the area.
I'm watching this manatee pop up, and it looks a little scuffed up. So when people see that, what are they looking at? There's just some marks. Manatees are normally gray, and there's some scuff marks, and just like little nicks cut out of, looks like the back of this manatee. And what happened? What do you think happened?
So the manatee that we're looking at in particular, it's got a series of spaced out little marks. It looks like maybe from the propeller of a boat. So as the manatee is under the water and the boat is moving, I would say, over it and past it, it's making these little successive marks into it. Oftentimes the marks on them are from boats. So in our area, there is a slow speed, no wake sign that's pretty much all throughout the Caloosahatchee River and other areas that they're known to frequent, especially this time of year as they move around a lot. They have a hard time making avoidance maneuvers and so getting out of the way. So one of the interesting things about manatees, most mammals have 7 vertebrae in their neck, which means you can move your head side to side, up and down. Manatees cannot look behind them. And so in order for a disturbance to occur, they either have to turn around and look and see what they're looking at or try to move somewhere. And they're slow animals, so it's kind of hard for them. So being able to observe that slow speed, no wake sign, and knowing what's going on around you is really important.
And what are some of the takeaways that you hope people get from visiting Manatee Park?
If they don't like manatees before, hopefully they like them after. They're so fun and amazing. So they are completely different than other marine animals. Like dolphins are a big draw here. Dolphins are amazing in their own right, I'm not gonna lie. Manatees don't jump and they don't do tricks. They don't do all these cool, amazing things, but they are there. I feel like watching them is really peaceful, kind of zen-like. So I personally enjoy it because it makes me feel calmer. Not that I'm crazy, but it's just it's at night. I don't know. It's just a nice feeling. Is that too much information for everybody? I'm so sorry.
But it's nice. I mean, we're just standing here along the canal, and I think there's probably 4 underwater right over here, and they're just sort of bobbing up a little bit. That one, there's one over there. He's going down. And
It
then
is
his big
neat.
Tail.
I've seen them roll over, so you can see their belly and their flippers are there. It's just, which is a cute maneuver. You see moms and calves. You really get to observe, I would say, a wild animal where in most situations you wouldn't. Normally you get closer to an animal and they move away for obvious reasons. These guys, we can only get as close as the fence line, of course, but they're doing their own thing, and I'd like to think they're putting on a show for us. They're probably not, but they're just, I don't know, it's really fun to watch, personally.
And it looks just like a real safe place for them. And manatee don't have predators.
They don't. So they are slow mammals. They eat seagrass, which doesn't move. So again, like a dolphin that moves fast to avoid predators, but then is also chasing fish, these guys are much slower, much more kind of lazy river animal, which is maybe why I like them so much. I love the lazy river at water parks, personally. If maybe it's an injured animal or maybe an orphan calf, an alligator in freshwater might hurt them, or again, a shark in saltwater, but for the most part, they tend not to encounter either. I mean, manatees are big, roughly 10 feet long and 1,000 pounds on average is what they'll get to be. So it's a lot of work for an alligator or really a shark. And manatees are more coastal, sharks tend to be deeper water, so the two don't mix very often. So yeah, things that can impact them are things like cold stress. So when we get those long, prolonged cold fronts, they get cold just like the rest of us, like we said. So if they can't make it to warm water fast enough, then that can severely impact them.
Yeah.
Things like red tide can impact them. It's a neurotoxin, so it impacts their ability to breathe and to function. And then, of course, there's human interaction, so garbage, fishing line in the water, being more, or I should say maybe better boaters. Many people out there are great boaters, and we appreciate that. Just wearing things that are going to help you be that better boater, so polarized sunglasses.
Where are manatees are on the species list? Are they endangered? Are they threatened? What?
So they were downlisted in 2017 from endangered to threatened. They're still protected under the Endangered Species Act. So still the same protection. So it means it's illegal to harm them, harass them, chase them, give them water, give them food, anything that's going to alter or change their behavior. There have been issues, and there continues to be issues on the East Coast, what they call an unusual mortality event. So manatees on the East Coast are dying in relatively large numbers from a lack of seagrass. So in the Indian River Lagoon, and there's things going on. So the federal government, in conjunction with the state government, so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission have a feeding program that's going on over there. They have permission to do it. They're meeting, federal guidelines, important guidelines. They're doing it in a way to feed the manatees while not revealing the fact that there are humans doing it, so to avoid the dependence of manatees on humans. But the thing to point out is that it is still extremely illegal for the average person, you, I, or anybody else, to feed them. In an aquarium setting where they're being taken care of, obviously that is a different situation. Sure. But seeing them here, I wouldn't show up with a head of lettuce and expect to not be told I should not do that.
And there's plenty of vegetation here.
Not so much in the park itself. So the canal that we're looking at is a concrete bottom, and it's a relatively strong current. So even if you could plant seagrasses here, I don't know that this current itself would make so they could survive. Mm-hmm. But there's vegetation out in the Orange River, out in the Clusatch River, and then again out towards the Gulf and the Cerro Bay and Pine Island Sound. So we have seen manatees in the Orange River, especially when tide is higher. I've seen them munch the grass just on the other side of the canal where we're standing from. I've seen them lift their heads up and eat leaves off mangroves, which is pretty entertaining. Okay. I imagine that's relatively rough. I don't know. I mean, I've never eaten a mangrove leaf before, but
yeah, they're pretty. I would think they're pretty hardy.
I would imagine, but they've got these nice, strong molars, so I feel like that's a good thing.
And what are typical questions that you get from visitors when they come out here?
Some of the questions we get asked are, can they come out of the water on their own? And the answer is no. So they historically had a relative that lived on land, and we can tell by looking at their anatomical structure they have a remnant of a pelvis, so where your legs would attach. But obviously they now have this paddle-shaped tail, so they are in the water. They do a great job swimming in the water. They are definitely aquatic marine animals. The only way they're getting out of the water typically is if they're in need of rescue, and human intervention is allowing them to come out of the water to then be rescued and then hopefully put back into the water at a later date.
So there are no guarantees if you come out to Manatee Park, but check the temperature, make sure it's 68 degrees or below. Mm-hmm. The cooler, the better.
You can check our park website as well. We do update it.
Terrific.
So, and that's again, and sometimes the news will say, hey, it's going to be cold out, come see manatees. And so that's a good thing to watch for as well. On a day like today where it's, I don't know, 75, 80, it's nice and warm. I'm quite comfortable, but because the Gulf is still slowly warming up, we have a ton, well, maybe not a ton, but we have a pretty good amount of manatees here, and my expectation is it will stay that way for a couple more days.
Because it cools off a little more at night, and there's several viewing stands.
There are, yep. So you can start all the way at the north end of the park by the road, which is what you're hearing, that road noise right now, and make your way all the way down to where the canal itself intersects with the Orange River. So there's a lot of great areas to stop and see them. They are just doing their own thing, but it's kind of fun to watch them surface to breathe. Sometimes they roll around. You see moms and calves. I don't know, they're just really fun. I don't know. I enjoy being here. It's one of the perks, I would say, of working in this particular location, is I get to see manatees this time of year. Oh, definitely. And those two just surface to breathe together, so I think that's pretty fun.
Anything that we forgot to talk about?
You'll see some that are here with a bunch of bumps on their backs, and that's probably barnacles. So that's a manatee that spent a lot of time in salt water. So it's kind of interesting to see them. They look all kind of rough and craggy. And the barnacles themselves don't hurt the manatees, and as they hang out here, we're more brackish to freshwater, the barnacles will eventually fall off. If you've seen it look really gray or shaggy, they probably spend a lot of time in freshwater and have algae accumulating on their back. And that's normal, and you'll see fish that might nibble on the algae. They don't bite the manatee itself, but they nibble on the algae because they're herbivores too, and they're looking for a free meal. But it's kind of neat to see, and just honestly their interactions with each other, just as they swim around and kind of bump into each other and whatever they do, I like it. Like I said, it's a lazy river, which I personally enjoy. It's just relaxing.
And it's a great place if you're amateur photographer, come out and
yes, most
take some really
definitely
great nature photos, and because there's one's coming up for air right there. But yeah, no, it's just beautiful. Spring training is going to be kicking in pretty soon, and if you're looking something to do before, come over here and see if you can see a manatee, or maybe do some kayaking. Also, there's an outfitter here. So there's lots of some butterflies going by right now.
I know, look at those monarchs. That's that's perfect. It's like we paid them, but we didn't.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for telling us all about Manatee Park and why people should visit. And it's just one of those places. It's free. You have to pay to park, but it's a free experience, and you can hang out here as long as you like. So thank you again for welcoming us, and we look forward to visiting you next time. What do you got here?
Thank you for coming out. Oh, yeah, I don't know, a group of manatees doing, I don't know what that was over there, but if there's that much movement, that's a potential for a mating herd, which is a lot more movement than you typically see from a manatee. So that's always exciting when they, I don't know. Like I said, you never know what you're going to see around here, to be honest. Manatees do all sorts of fun things.
It's a little early for Valentine's Day, but that's all right. Hey, love is in the air when love is in the air, right?
That was wonderful. I love that.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Shellcast, the award-winning podcast of Fort Myers Islands, Beaches, and Neighborhoods, is produced by the Lee County Visitor and Convention Bureau in Fort Myers, Florida, and it's available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm Jackie Parker. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you again next time.
Shellcast.